Hello there everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today I have another 10 upcoming new VR games for you to add to your wish lists. So if there's anyone out there who says VR is quiet right now or dares utter the phrase VR is dead, then just show them this video and my previous new VR games in 2024 video. There are 20 games across both of these videos and plenty more that I haven't touched upon yet. However, before we get into the 10 new games, let's kick things off with 2 new updates to games I've mentioned previously. First up is Alien Rogue Incursion. Developers Survios just dropped a few short trailers to highlight certain aspects of the game, and I've got to say this is looking better and better the more I see of it. My confidence levels are rising. The thing that has me most excited in these 2 short trailers is the way in which the xenomorphs move. Look at their pathing. They aren't just walking towards the player, they're circling around the room, diving into vents, leaping onto boxes and set dressings, and generally acting like I would expect xenomorphs to act. It sounds like a little thing, but seeing them move in a menacing, unpredictable way fills me with excitement for how firefights will play out in this game. These trailers also dropped a release date, December 19th, 2024, a beautiful early Christmas present for me. Next up, we have another new trailer and release date confirmation for a new VR game I've covered previously. This is Behemoth, the brutal hack-and-slash giant-slaying adventure from the team behind Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, and it's honestly looking like a potential VR Game of the Year contender. Everything in every trailer so far looks stunning, from the visuals to the visceral combat, the gore to the giant climbing traversal. This might just be the Shadow of the Colossus in VR experience that I've always dreamt about. Now luckily we don't have long to wait to find out, because Skydance Interactive have confirmed that Behemoth is launching on the 14th of November and pre-orders are open now. Let's dive into the new games now, and we're starting off with 2 new games that are eerily similar. First up is a brand new title from Fast Travel Games. This is Action Hero, a VR FPS for the Quest platform that turns you, the player, into the protagonist in your very own action film. Well, 5 different films to be precise, each with their own setting, style, and obvious influences from real-world cinema. Each movie plays out across 4 chapters and is set in a distinctly different universe. 1 minute you're starring in your very own James Bond espionage thriller, the next you're fighting off ninjas in feudal Japan, and then you'll find yourself punching velociraptors in the face in your very own Jurassic Park. The unique hook here in Action Hero is the fact that time moves in slow motion until you move, very much like a reversed super hot mechanic. So enemies will be coming at you and blasting bullets towards you in slow motion until you start moving around, and then at that point things will speed up, so plan your moves accordingly. Next up, we have a brand new game from Dreams that, and stop me if this sounds familiar, draws massive inspiration from the world of movies and cinema. It's set across dozens of bite-sized replayable levels that are often direct riffs on films we know and love, and it employs a super hot style visual aesthetic and a unique set of movement mechanics. Here, in Vendetta Forever, you move by killing an enemy and then grabbing the weapon they just dropped. This zips you to the location of their death, whereby you kill the next person, and so on and so forth. I always find it fascinating when 2 games with such similarities end up being released or announced alongside each other. It's like a Shark Tale and Finding Nemo situation, or Bug's Life and Ants. Did Dreams and Fast Travel get together and say, let's each make a game that riffs on action movies and plays a little bit like Super Hot? Don't know, but anyway, I don't care how this game came to be, I just care that it did, because honestly Vendetta Forever is awesome. I truly believe this game has the secret sauce to become an instant VR classic, and I can't wait to play the full release. You can download and play a demo for this one right now on MetaQuest. I did not see this coming, but I'm really glad it's happening. Arizona Sunshine is getting a full remake in what seems to be the engine and framework that Vertigo Games used for Arizona Sunshine 2. So that means better visuals, better gun mechanics, nastier gore, and an all-round more polished experience. This actually feels like such a no-brainer zombies decision for Vertigo to make. The original Arizona is one of the most beloved VR games ever made, but if you place it side by side with the sequel now, it does feel extremely dated in comparison. So polishing it up for a new audience and a new era of VR headsets is a wonderful idea. It brings it in line with number 2 and makes a back-to-back playthrough much more appealing. I actually can't remember the last time I blasted my way through Arizona 1, so I'm excited to go back and relive that adventure with gorgeous new visuals on the 17th of October this year. Owners of the original game will also be able to pick up the remake at a discounted price. Sticking with the zombie theme, next up we have a brand new game from Combat Waffle, the studio that brought us the immensely popular Ghost of Tabor. However, this time, instead of tackling the escape from Tarkov gameplay loop in virtual reality, they're turning their attention towards a more 7 Days to Die style inspired experience by throwing players into the snow-covered and zombie-filled Alps in this PvPvE survival game. Silent North sounds like it's building upon the foundations of Ghost of Tabor to deliver another PvP scavenging, looting and crafting shooter experience that players will love. However, this time we have more to worry about than just other players killing us and taking our stuff. Now we've got hordes of zombies to contend with, and if the zombies pose a big enough threat, then they could actually create some interesting gameplay scenarios whereby players choose to team up rather than fight against each other. But those teams could also end up controlling this snowy wasteland with an iron fist, meaning solo survivors have the undead and groups of hostile survivors to hide from. The possibilities are pretty exciting. Up next we have a beautiful looking VR follow-up to the beloved Down the Rabbit Hole. This is Escaping Wonderland, another Alice in Wonderland inspired VR adventure whereby players control a character in a third-person adventure game whilst also completing puzzles and interacting with the environments in first person as a sort of invisible narrator or companion. Now if you've played the exceptional Moss games, then you'll know how this works. It's a style of gameplay that only VR can offer, a blending of third and first person into one single experience that works wonderfully when done right. Now, although Escaping Wonderland does take place in the same familiar realm of Wonderland from Alice in Wonderland, players won't be playing as Alice. Here we're guiding Molly down the rabbit hole and into this topsy-turvy fantasy world, so it's a unique new story in a setting and location that we all know and love. The game has a bright, vibrant aesthetic, and it looks like it could be a great option for VR users who are new to the tech or who have less sturdy VR legs. Much like Moss and Max Mustard, these kind of third-person virtual reality adventure games work perfectly as introductory games for those who have less VR experience or are playing for the first time due to their low levels of motion sickness-inducing movement. Here's a surprise release that is well overdue in my opinion. The fantastic, snowy, first-person shooter action-adventure game Fracked is finally coming to MetaQuest headsets in a matter of days. I absolutely love this game. It was clearly the framework which nDreams used to go on to create the incredible Synapse with. It's a first-person VR shooter with creative cover mechanics, some high-octane set pieces, weird humanoid purple enemies, and skiing sections. That's right, you get to ski and shoot at the same time in Fracked. From this first trailer, it looks like the visual quality of the game is completely intact for this Quest release. The colours still look vibrant and the cel-shaded visuals look sharp. This is a must-play for anyone on the Quest who wants a short, sweet, action-packed FPS that's filled to the brim with style. It's just a shame nDreams didn't add any post-launch DLC or content to the game, because the one negative really is the short runtime, at around 3 hours and maybe 30 minutes to complete the campaign. That being said, I have played it through on PSVR, PC, and now I fully intend to blast through it on Quest, so I can't exactly say it's not replayable. Okay, these next 3 games are really exciting because they demonstrate a very impactful shift in the VR industry and the emergence of a brand new VR studio that is poised to do amazing things. These next games are all in development at Flatout VR Studios. Yes, that's right, the same Flatout VR who came from humble beginnings pulling together VR mods and creating a Discord to distribute and celebrate them, is now making full-fledged VR game conversions for Quest, PC and PSVR2. This might just be the biggest glow-up in the history of VR. First up, spearheaded by the legends at Team Beef, we have Wrath Aeon of Ruin, a tight, frenetic and clearly Quake-inspired boomer shooter that looks stunning inside a VR headset. Honestly, I'm a sucker for retro aesthetics rendered in full VR, and this is one of the best. If you subscribe to the Team Beef Patreon, then you can actually get access to an early Quest build of this right now, provided you own the flat screen version of the game. However, this right here is a true VR version, a VR port. It's not a mod. This is officially launching onto the Quest Store, Steam, and PS5 for PSVR2, and it's the first of 3 examples of Flatout VR modders helming a licensed VR port in this video. Next up, we have the best example of these Flatout VR releases being true, complete, and substantial VR versions of these games. This is Trombone Champ Unflattened, and it looks incredible. Now, I played the flat screen version of Trombone Champ a ton when it came out. It's a hilarious and simple little rhythm game where you play along to classic songs on your trombone, and even if you absolutely nail it, it still ends up sounding ridiculous. Now, soon after the game launched, a VR mod was put together by Rai Kupata. That was a seriously impressive undertaking. The VR mod gave players a 3D trombone and allowed you to play by physically moving the trombone in and out to hit different notes. It was a great example of a VR mod attempting to feel like a native VR experience, but it still wasn't quite there. Now fast forward to today, and we have this. This is a proper VR version of Trombone Champ, built by the original developers of the game, holy wow, Rai Kupata and Flatout VR Studios. I mean, look at this trailer. If you had any doubt that Flatout VR were going to be making proper VR versions of flat games, then this should put those feelings to bed. This looks amazing, and if this is the level of quality we can expect from Flatout VR projects, then we should all be very excited at the potential of this team moving forward. The final Flatout VR game we're looking at today, but not the final Flatout VR game on the horizon, is a VR port of Flatout, a classic Destruction Derby style racing game filled with wacky challenges, high-speed stunts, and tons of crashes, smashes, and explosions. Again, this is a brilliant choice for a VR port, but not necessarily one that people would immediately think of. There is a gap in the market, especially on Quest, for good VR racing games, and Flatout brings more to the table than just racing. It's a complete package of over-the-top car-centric action, and it could be absolutely stomach-churning in VR. And I say that in the best way possible. Now, this footage is from an early dev build, and this title doesn't yet have a release date or window, so I'm sure there is still plenty to be explored, but I do hope the finished version launches with a proper cockpit view. The footage on display here is all captured from a front bonnet perspective, and although it looks very, very cool, I want all my car-based action to feel as immersive as possible, so sitting behind the steering wheel is the only way to go for me personally. And finally, I saved the best until last, at least in my opinion anyway, a game that VR users have been asking for years now. A proper Hitman VR experience. This is Hitman 3 VR Reloaded for the Quest 3. Now, this trailer is our first proper look at the game in action on the Quest 3, and there are plenty of positives and negatives shining through. We'll start with the positives. This really does look like all of Hitman 3, completely intact and rebuilt for VR, with dual wielding, proper VR interactions, and a snazzy new cel-shaded art style to set it apart from the flat screen and previous VR version. From a content offering perspective, that's already exciting. Hitman 3 is a decently long game and is also one of the most replayable games out there. VR players can expect to sink a ton of hours into this if they're hoping to complete all the challenges and unlock everything the game has to offer. And it's finally a version of Hitman in VR that feels like it's been built for VR. We can use both our hands and fire 2 guns at once. Immediately, that should put this version above the existing PC and PSVR version for a lot of people. Now, getting all of Hitman 3 to run on the Quest 3 is genuinely impressive, and the work that XR Games have done here is looking phenomenal. However, that brings me on to 2 negatives. The visuals have clearly taken quite a considerable hit. The current version of Hitman VR isn't the best looking VR game out there, but alongside this, the considerably murkier and more pixelated footage that we've got here, the difference is pretty stark. I can already tell a lot of people will be criticising the visuals, but realistically, Hitman is about the gameplay and the sandbox, and as long as that's nailed, then I'm sure it will win players over. The second negative is, I want all the other content. Yeah, I know I'm being greedy, but PC players have access to all of Hitman and Hitman 2 in VR as well. So here's hoping this version sells well enough to warrant XR Games converting all that additional content as well, because that really would be an incredible content package if they managed it. And that brings me to the end of this video. I hope you've all enjoyed. Please do leave a like, drop a comment down below, and hit subscribe if you want to support the channel and help me make more videos like this. I will see you soon for another one. Take care. See you later.